And here we are with another day, night, evening, afternoon, whatever you call it, of the Ham2K live stream series. We have with us today W Delta, Whiskey Delta 4, Delta Alpha November, Dan the Man, Danny,
Dan.
or Daniel, just Dan.
My mother calls me Daniel.
Your mother calls you Daniel every
Yeah.
time, or just when you're in trouble?
Just when I'm in trouble, and she'll also
Yeah.
put my middle name in there. You know how it is?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I know the tone. I use it sometimes.
If I hear the middle name, run.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So yeah, we're here. Another day. I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we're going to be talking about radios and logging and activations and hopefully a little bit of polo. Let me see the chat who's in here today. Oh, we have a few people. Yeah, we have an audience. We have Steve. We have Steves. We have multiple Steves.
We do. And that Whiskey Charlie 9 Bravo guy, you got to watch out for. He's trouble.
Yeah, no, and Brian, say hi to Anna. We also have Bo. Is that Bo? Yes.
Brian, your first comment didn't go away, is there? I'm going to give a shout out to Brian real fast because he's out in the park activating right now, I believe, and watching the stream. Yeah.
Good. We even have Europe. Paraik from Ireland. Yeah. Excellent.
What time is it over there? Oh, it must be late.
Yeah, it's midnight.
Wow.
In Ireland. The Paraik actually is he asked on the Discord the other day for support for a program called Worked All Ireland, which is kind of like it uses like grids, but it's a different kind of grids. We had Worked All Britain, WAB, already in the app, and he came out and said that there's also the Ireland version, which uses the same grid. It's just you just needed to extend it to Ireland, and
that's the fun thing about loggers. That's the fun thing about loggers. You get people from all around the world, right? And they give their input about things they want for their certain locales, which is kind of the same thing we're working towards POTA. Me personally, I think it's weird that somebody who's in Ireland or Poland or South Africa, wherever, logs in and their awards page shows worked all U.S. states and activated all U.S. states.
Yeah.
So I want to make that more local centric, know, where you can look at stats from everywhere, but your default view is going to be, say,
you should have your local, or worked all Europe or worked all your local country, states, whatnot. Just things are appropriate for where you are. Yeah,
right. It's just growing pains. We started out obviously as more U.S. centric based and expanded very rapidly. So now instead of a local United States, North American mindset, we got to think on a global scale.
I mean, one thing that we didn't mention when we started is that you are involved in POTA.
I am.
You are responsible for everything that doesn't work well on the POTA website.
You have to blame me for that. That's fine.
Yeah, you're used to that. You help run the POTA website. Please don't ask him. We already asked him about all the things that annoy us.
Yeah, worked out provinces. Yep, that's a good one. Me and a team of a lot of volunteers. So everybody gives us a hard time sometimes, but it is volunteers, guys. We do it in our spare time as we can. So.
And they're working. I mean, I know for sure that they're working on all the things that annoy me because I've brought them enough times. Not as fast as I would like, but that's the nature of volunteer work. That's the nature of amateur radio. People have to feed their families first. I mean, I wish that they had a couple of more hours and I would be able to add more things to Polo. But no, we appreciate all the work the POTA volunteers do and the World Wildlife and Flora and Fauna volunteers, all the volunteers. One of the reasons I added the little notes feature on Polo that shows you emojis and things like that is I wanted to recognize all the work that those people are doing. And I've been able to add a lot of people there. So because I think it's fun when somebody works you that they realize, oh, he helps with POTA. Let me just say thank you.
Especially Charlie over on the help desk. He does a fantastic job setting that up. So He is a people person. And, contrary to popular belief, I'm not very much a people person. So help desk work would not be my forte.
Yeah.
Because I'm real quick to sell some, to tell somebody straight up, you're stupid. You're doing something wrong, and that's not really a good customer kind of relation,
Yeah. No, I mean, the one thing that works for me at Polo is that I get people all the time coming up with their problem.
Yeah.
And I can easily tell them the problem is that you did it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how it was designed or all of that. But I like to take the opportunity to think, I mean, sure, he did it wrong, but I communicated it badly. I let him do it wrong. And I try to learn from how they did it to see if there's ways of preventing that from happening.
And like I told you before we met in Orlando, I said the best way to learn how somebody uses your software is to watch them use your software.
Yeah. And I swear we did not rehearse this conversation. Right. This came out naturally for sure.
It did.
But the main reason I wanted to invite you today is to showcase some of the new features we added in February and March that were literally built because you whined about them.
That's right. I did. I don't want to type.
Yeah. And there are lots of things we added around multi-activator operations. When you have 2, 3, 4, 10 guys at a park passing the microphone and all working the same people. And I don't know if you want to talk about how you normally operate, what happens there, and why that's the way you tend to activate the most, and what are the problems you face and all of that.
The problems that I faced before Polo was, say if you had 10 people at a park and you're activating, you would do a log, okay, and if you pass the mic around, and normally we would have like 1 or 2 people logging, and to duplicate that log for other people, you'd have to copy it and bring it into Notepad or ADF Master, whatever your editor of flavor of choice is. You can use SED or TR, whatever you want to use, and you'd have to change the operator call sign, for everybody, and then send them their log. It was a time sink. It's not so bad when you're just doing like a dual operator, when you go out with 2 people, but it's still annoying to have to do it because you got to make sure your park to parks are right. If you do park to parks between each other and everything else, it's just a bad time sink.
Mm-hmm.
And so Polo makes that very easy now, and we'll talk about that more in a minute, that when you export your logs on a multi-op activation, it'll export 1 log for each person, and it'll figure out if you have park to parks, and it'll make them right so you don't accidentally log yourself. So it makes it very nice.
Yeah, there's one thing that when I started Polo, the thing I've said it a couple of times, but the key decision was that I did not use ADIF as my base data format.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to do a lot of things like this, where I realized, hey, if I put 2 parks separated by a comma, I don't need to show you 2 entries on your log. But when I export to ADIF, I just loop and create 2 QSOs in the ADIF. Yeah. And then I realized when you enter a call sign, I don't need to ask you to enter the call sign twice. I can put a comma in the call sign you enter and enter it twice. And the extension to that was like, well, when you define what the stations are for the operation, you could put them with a comma, and I'll let the log everybody. And then when exporting the ADIF files, we produce 1 for each one of them.
I learned long ago, writing my very first ADIF parser, that ADIF is terrible. It's a terrible format. There's structure to it, but there's not structure to it. You can have an entire ADIF file literally on 1 line, and it's still valid. You don't have to put in page breaks. You don't have to make it look pretty. And worse than that is Cabrillo.
Cabrillo is it's not a format. It's a family of formats, a style of formats.
Yeah.
The each contest has its own variation. It's not quite the same, but it's actually the fact that it's simpler makes it easier to deal with. My main problem with ADIF is that it doesn't contemplate things like working POTA and SOTA at the same time. Only recently they added fields that let you write that in 1 ADIF log. So there's no way to have 1 ADIF log that has all your operation data. And you see it because most logging apps have like their own extensions so that they don't understand each other. They don't see what they mean. So in theory, it's either a data format for a logger to save data, it loads only by itself, or for a logger to send data to another logger, but only limited, the most basic data you can export.
I don't think any logging program in the right mind anyway would use ADIF itself as the storage mechanism. It just wouldn't. It's not very queryable. You can't run any good metrics on it or anything. All the loggers I use N3FJP here at home, and I know that doesn't use ADIF at the back end. It uses MDB files. As a matter of fact.
No, they use an MDB, but the columns on those databases are based on what ADIF.
Yeah, they're based on. Yeah. They're based on the ADIF values.
Yes, they are. They are a reflection of the ADIF. And the fact that I did not build Polo on that really opened the door to a lot of the combinations we do, where you can like literally run a multi-part POTA with SOTA for 5 operators that are also doing winter field day, all in one log.
Good that you structured the data like you need it. Yep.
Wait until I figure out how to do rows and operations that change over time in one log. That's my next challenge. That I don't have the answer to that.
That would be great. Yeah.
But that's something I want to solve in an elegant way. I just don't know how.
Yeah, because operations can change over time. You're right. So if you go from park to park to park and you want to keep one singular flowing log of that, obviously your park number is going to change. If let's say you're running a group optimization, you like that word? Let's say you're running a group activation and your buddy joins. All of a sudden now you have 3 operators and he stays for 15 or so contacts and then he leaves. But you're still there. Yeah.
Or you're doing like a QSO party and you're roving and changing counties.
Or you're on a county line and can claim both. Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, trust me, I've done 1,000 QSOs in a county line for New York QSO party. I know that one. But I think, the secret for a QSO party is to also do it at a park.
Yes.
Because that brings you twice the audience, twice the people looking to contact you.
Yeah.
A lot of people are hunting for POTA and they don't care about QSO parties, but it still counts for a QSO party.
Yeah, POTA over the last 2 years has definitely grown leaps and bounds.
Yeah. Now, for my secret for New York QSO party for breaking all the records I've been breaking is I spent hours looking for good locations that are county lines and parks.
Yeah.
That's the trick. That did it. But anyways, enough about me. Let's talk about how you use Polo in your multi-op activations.
I can bring up my tablet if you want here.
Let me see if I can set up the...
Let me cut it over, then you can make me bigger.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will be big enough for everybody to see.
Whoop. I don't know how to do this. Maximize here. There we go.
Hey, there we go.
Now I have yours.
All right. This is my tablet that I run. While you're figuring out, I'll talk to people here.
Yeah, go for it.
This is a Samsung Tab. I'm really not entirely sure. Actually, I said it in the chat not long ago. A Tab S9 Plus. And I got a Bluetooth keyboard on it because I cannot stand touch screen typing. That's just me. I just can't do it. Like logging on a phone with my fat thumbs, I'd never be able to do it. All right, let's open up the Polo here.
And I don't know if you quickly noticed there, but that's the splash image for the March release that just went out for testers.
It is.
And it happens to be a photo of a small operation Dan and Jamie ran while we were down at Ham2K.
Where do I get to the big one?
If you go to the versions, on the left side, the March 25, where it says about Ham2K. There. If you tap there and you tap on the image, you can see it. Yeah.
I did tap on the image. It doesn't like that. But anyway, there you go. So
that was You can see 8 people there. We ended up having 10. It was me taking the photo. There was someone else who showed up. That was a fun time.
Yeah, it was. We had a great fun. As a matter of fact, that activation is right here. The 307 one at we had a 9 operators. So, well, me plus 9, as you see right there in the middle. And that was an example of the multi-operator and the awesome way to export that. You want to start just a regular. Let's do a multi-op here. I don't have any parks really close to me here.
You can pick one manually.
So let's add POTA. Let's do Acadia because that's always a good park.
0001.
Let me turn my keyboard on.
I activated that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that is awesome. Oops. Add activity.
Yeah, Acadia is a beautiful park.
That is on my my bucket list to get up here. Okay, so right now we're set up for just me logging at Acadia National Park up in Maine because I'm there right now, right? If you want to add a second operator, so a station call sign is going to be the call sign that is used on the air. Is that right?
And there's a little confusion that comes up with the terms we use here. It's like the station call sign is what you use on the air, and the operator is the person logging or operating the call sign.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's usually the same. If you have something like a club call or like a special 1-by-1 call, then you can have a station call sign that's different from the operator. Or say you're doing a contest or a special event and you're operating someone else's call. That's when you put your name on the second field for the operator call sign.
Yep. So
except that we have the people used to say when they're doing multi-station activations, they say stand by for a second operator, which is not completely incorrect, but it tends to make people talk about multi-operator activations. But the right name for that is a multi-station, because you have more than one call sign at the same time.
I'm gonna have to start saying that. Stand by for the second station.
Yeah, nah, that's not gonna work.
I know, right? All right, so right now it's just me set up to do a single operator activation. So let's pick on some people here. You're gonna do a comma delimited field of call signs that are people that are with you. So let's say Sebastian is here. Let's pick on some folks in the chat here. Whiskey Charlie 9 Bravo is a part of this activation as well. I saw Brian in there. Whiskey 1 Whiskey Charlie. It's going to be a worldwide activation here. We're going to do Victor Alpha 4 Alpha Delta Mike. We're just all over the map, aren't we, today? And who else can we pick on? Let's pick on Papa Delta 0 India November. All right, so we have, 6 people right now that are all gathered around, the POTA table about to do an activation.
And Polo doesn't verify that all the people there have licensed.
Yeah, that's true.
To operate in the U.S. That's not up to us. You do whatever you want to do.
That's definitely not up to the logger. That's up to you to make sure you stay within your band plans and your license privileges. All right, up at the top, you see WD4DAN +5 at US 0001. So that's me plus the other 5 people that I entered there. And on the operations screen over on this side here, you see all the call signs that are listed. And so let's say we make a contact here with, let's say James, Kilo Echo 8, Papa Zulu November. He is in Chapmanville, West Virginia, the ham radio adventure guy. And we log him. So even though it's one logger going on here, when we export these ADIF files, it's going to make 6 of them.
If you want to click on the Manage Operation Logs section, you will see that it'll have one POTA for each one of the call signs.
And when you export those, you can send each person their respective ADIF file. I got developer mode turned on. That's what you see.
Whatever you see in orange, you're not supposed to be seeing that normally. But if you go on the polo.ham2k.com website and read the manual, you can learn more about enabling developer mode.
Now, let's say this is a cool feature too. So let's just pick, all right. So from the their call field, you can do a lot of cool stuff. You can change frequency. You can spot yourself. You can go QRT. You can QSY and all sorts of cool stuff. Right now, we're just going to change frequency to 146.52. We're going to go over to 2 meter FM. And it did pick FM for me because that's probably what you're going to be running on that frequency. And we're just going to enter. Do I have to enter everybody's call sign in the activation here? Let's see. WD4DAN. Basically, what we're going to do is just park to parks between us all here.
Yeah, which is something that people who do multi-op operations tend to do. You can work each other on 2 meters, on 70 centimeters, and any radius you have with you count. And that gives you an extra activation contact at that park.
All right. So I have all 6 of us listed down here. Yes, I did include myself. And we're going to do a park to park with us at US 0001. So you comma delimit into their call field, any call sign that you want to log, and you hit log and it logs all 6 of them just like that. When you export the log file, this is what's cool. When you export the log file, your log will not have the call sign you made with yourself in it. So you're not going to log yourself. So you don't have to worry about that. So if I export KI2D's log file and send it to him, it's not going to have that line in there for KI2D. So that's a definite plus there. Yeah, let's see what else.
And there's a couple of things that I observed during that operation in Ham2K that made me add a couple of features. One was there's a big community around the POTA in general, but the Ham Radio Adventure Guide Discord.
Absolutely.
Jamie operates every single day of the year, and there's a lot of people hunting him. And people like Dan also tend to operate around the same crowd. And there's some big families and some big groups that are always hunting you.
Yes.
And so during the operation, I would see you guys trying to log these 8 call signs. And the worst part is that you guys know them by heart.
Yep. We know them by heart, but the problem is
all the typing.
Right. So if you're in a thick pileup and the Rose family calls, so I get Whiskey 8 Echo Romeo Romeo, and I log that in the log. We call QRZ. Okay. I might get one more of the Rose family logged in there, and then I'm already listening for the next call. Okay. So then I log the next caller, Whiskey Charlie 9 Bravo. And then while Whiskey Charlie 9 Bravo is giving me my signal report, I'm logging the rest of the Roses. And then I call QRZ again. And if I'm not done, then I field the next call, Victor Echo 1 Sierra Kilo. And while he's giving me my signal report, I'm logging the remainder of the Roses that called me 3 calls ago. So it's a lot to keep track of in your mind. Sometimes you're going back and forth. But Sebastian has implemented call expansion. So you can use your own custom call expansion file. And sure, he'll go over that in just a minute. But what you can do is start the call sign or whatever you want to trigger it on. And then you put the list of call signs, comma delimited in your call expansion file. It's basically a custom notes file. So for the Rose family, what I have is you can do ... or // We'll do // and then I have an ERR because it's Echo Romeo Romeo for the mom who calls. So I do ERR and it says, would you like to expand this to these 7 call signs? So if they call me on sideband, most of the time it's all 7 of them. So if I want to expand that, I just hit enter and it puts all 7 call signs in the call field. And if one of them's not there, then I can just go delete one single call sign. And then you hit enter and it'll log all 7 of them. Now in real time, so say they call me in real time, what that looks like is I can get the first one and then they'll say all 7. 2 slashes. And then they'll say all 7 and I'll say, okay, you're in the log and I hit enter. and there's all 7 of them logged right there. I don't have to go back and forth between calls, right?
Yeah, that's right.
James and Sherry activate a lot together too. So I have another one called PZN, and I can expand those out to James and Sherry, and I can log both of them just that fast. So that's a really, really useful feature.
And one little tip is that a lot of these features use the period or the slash. And Polo, I mean, on phones, the iPhone doesn't have the period on screen, but Polo lets you have a like the virtual number key row that will include a period.
Right.
Android has a period, really easy to access on the virtual keyboard, and Polo lets you enter periods or slashes indifferently. So if you're typing something that's only a number, then your period will remain a period.
Right.
But as soon as it looks like a call sign, Polo converts those periods to slashes. So it's easy to enter those if you're using a virtual keyboard.
Alpha 4 Alpha Tango has a good question here. I don't know if it's a question or a statement. I can't export these logs and look at them easily on this tablet. It does say up there, it says all those call signs are operated by WD4DAN.
Yes.
And he was curious that when you export the ADIF, does it have me in the operator column?
It is. It's going to have the operator because on the station settings, the let's put it, the owner of the tablet, Polo, is configured for you as the operator of most operations. Unless you change that, it'll have you as the operator. It should not be a problem when you upload to Polo to POTA, because POTA will manage that operator. You're already in the list of contacts. POTA will have created your contacts for you.
Right.
We can. It's possible. I mean, I can think about making sure that when it's multi-operator, Polo does not include an operator to avoid that confusion. That's something that could be done.
Yeah,
to ensure the logs are a little bit cleaner.
Yeah, I think that'll be a good idea. So if I have Alpha 4 Alpha Tango add an activation with me, he should, when the logs export, maybe he should be both the station and the operator.
I mean, if you're going to have a multi-station operation and an operator that's not one of the stations, that's a weird edge case scenario. That's probably not likely.
Yeah. Let's
now,
see what. Go ahead.
The other thing I saw you guys do at that operation, and the reason I invited Dan and not James to demonstrate this, is call stacking. And James does it all in his head. He's insane.
Yeah, he is.
And I'm not talking about when you have a pile up and you hear 2 letters and you ask those 2 letters to stand by while you complete another call sign, and then you remember those 2 letters. No.
Yep.
James will remember 3 of the call signs he heard and 2 partial letters. And 5 log QSOs later, he's still going back to the ones he caught on the first pass.
He always jokes that he has the ARRL call sign database implanted in his head by a USB chip.
But for us mere mortals, I don't know if you want to show how it works.
Yep.
And how would you use it?
All right, so I'm in a big pileup. I call QRZ, and everybody knows the roar of a big pileup. So let's say I hear a 1 sugar kilo, and then you do ... or // and I hear a India November, and let's say I hear KI2D in there, and I hear another call sign. Let's say I hear a Kilo Delta 8. Now you can keep going as long as you want. I mean, the bigger list you make. So you make a list of partial call signs that you heard separated by ... or // If you type in ... Polo will automatically translate that to a // for you. So we just start working this list backwards if you want, or you can jump around if you want to move the cursor. So I say the Kilo Delta 8 station come now. So let's say it was Kilo Delta 8, Sierra. I have no idea who that is. Eric, if you're watching this, hey buddy. So once we have Kilo Delta 8, Sierra in there, you just hit enter, and it will take it off the end of that stack, and we can go on to the next call sign. Now, I don't know if I heard the entire call sign. So I say Kilo India 2 Delta. Now, I may have got a partial there. I don't know. Maybe there was something else behind it. But he comes back and says, yep, that's the whole call sign, Kilo India 2 Delta. So we just hit enter, and it'll pop that one right off the end of the stack. That's not on mine. All right, so it'll pop that off the end of the stack. So now I heard an India November. So let's figure out who this is. So I say the station with India November come now. And they say it was Alpha 4 India November. James, if you're watching this, hey, I'm not picking on anybody. Now you just hit enter and pop that one back off the stack. Now we heard a 1 sugar kilo. We say 1 sugar kilo station come now. And that was Victor Echo 1 sugar kilo. And we hit enter and we pop that one right off the stack. And then we call QRZ again and take another list of partials as you hear them.
Yep. I have plans to make it a little bit better so that it identifies if you have any full call in that stack, it'll pick that up first and maybe suggest that you work that one instead of just the last one. But yeah, I think that's the.
There was a question here. How do the signal reports work when you're stacking calls? Let's give it a try. I don't know. Kilo India 4. Let's say we heard a Whiskey Delta 5. Okay, so let's say Whiskey Delta 5 Alpha. We're going to give him a 5-5, and we received a 5-5.
And give it a state too.
No. All right, so that popped off.
It clears the rest of the fields when you stack. So it's different from the comas.
Called it look up.
When you do the comas, it might be that it doesn't exist.
I got you.
When you do comas, then it will log them all together with the same parks, the same states, every attribute of the log. When you stack, it will only do the last one.
Yeah.
And you can actually even do a stack with comas.
Yeah, see, that one's not found. Let's do one that was found here.
Yeah.
Is there any Kilo Echo 3 Alpha Bravo Charlie maybe? Come on. Is there a Kilo Echo 3 anywhere in the world?
No. But so you can have the Kilo Echo 3 and then / and then put 2 calls with a coma.
Yep. But you see it does.
It'll log the 2 calls with whatever you've signal reports and P2P and whatever else you've entered, and then clear the rest and just leave the stack in place.
Yeah, the Whiskey Delta 5 Alpha just didn't look up. That's why we didn't get a name here. But you did see it did save the signal reports of the 2 that I did. So, yeah.
We have a question from Randy. I'll show it here. That what I use the full ADIF file for. So if all you care is uploading to POTA, then you use the POTA export directly. If some people want to save these logs, say on QRZ.com or on their N3FJP logger at home, then you do the full export and try to save that on your home logger. There's a few differences, especially in the last release. I made it so that any log that's made to submit to a contest or to a program like POTA will have the minimum information possible. That ADIF will not include people's names or emails, and in particular, will not include any notes you take. Because if I contact Dan and I write in the notes that he was a bit of a dick today, and then I submit that to POTA, I don't want that note to go to POTA.
Oh, they know.
But they don't need. I don't want to confirm.
Right.
I don't want to create the distraction of the confirmation and then passing it around all the volunteers and pointing at it. And so the log that goes to POTA only has the fields needed for POTA, while the full ADIF tries to be a single file that has all the information in one place. There are a couple of things that cannot be done in a single POTA file, in a single ADIF file. If you work POTA and SOTA, or if you work POTA with multiple references, a park to park with multiple references, it uses some of the new fields that not all the logging apps support.
Right.
That's a shortcoming of POTA. No, it's not a shortcoming of POTA. It's not a shortcoming of Polo. It's a shortcoming of ADIF. But we try to do our best that you have a single file that can have all your information in it that you export to QRZ or something like that. Ideally, in the future, Polo will submit directly to POTA, directly to QRZ, and will pick the right data for you. And Log4OM and Cloud Log and Wave Log and any other application we can manage to do a push of data directly to. But for now, that full ADIF is the best file you have to import into your personal logger for archiving.
That's exactly what I do when I export. I'll do both you know, the POTA and the full ADIF, and the full ADIF goes into my master log, and right. The POTA stuff goes up to POTA. So
yeah. But yeah, no, that was a good demo of all the little features we've added for multi-operator activation and for the type of operation that Dan, Jamie, and some people do. I've done a few multi-operator activations, including with what my friend KN2Y Jay, we did a 16 park rove as two operators passing the microphone back and forth on each one of the parks, and that was fun. And that was before I've added this. That's the reason I added the multi-operator feature, because just exporting the logs was painful enough, and I realized it was not too hard to include it this way.
Anything else anybody wants to see as far as logging, like call stacking, or maybe logging multiple activators? Field some questions from the chat here.
Yeah. One, in the meantime, I want to show you. You have the March release, so it's probably there. If you go to the settings and you go on the features, the app feature section is right above developer settings. We now have both the QSO party. I've been adding more states, so we already have the support for all the QSO parties that happened in March and early April. And I've added support for the what I call a generic simple contest. This will let you log with an arbitrary exchange and will produce an ADIF that has that exchange in the right fields. And it will even try to produce a Gabrilla file that might work for most contests. Because some people have asked to be able to use Polo for simple contesting, especially when they're also doing QRP or POTA activations and things like that. This will allow them to do that and do capture the exchange in an easy way.
Yep.
And then put it in a way that can be sent to ADIF master or some other tool to convert to the right format for each contest. I want to add support for more contests with real scoring and dupe checking and things like that. But in the meantime, this will let anybody do any contest that involves one field of exchange. I mean, you can even exchange multiple things with a space, and it will capture it. So you could do field day if you wanted, but there's good support for field day already. So,
you know, some contests have some weird multiplier rules too. Like, I mean, you have to somehow keep track of them, right? So,
yeah. Parag asks, what if an op takes a break in a multi-op activation? Right now, it's all or nothing. You assume that all the operators or all the stations were involved in all the QSOs. We might add a way of selectively disabling a few of the QSOs, or like I was saying earlier, we can come up with a mechanism that lets you change things on the operation, like for roaming over multiple parks, or for changing the operators. But for now, it's all or nothing. You can manually edit your ADIF later if you want, if you know the QSOs you want to exclude, but it's an all or nothing proposition right now.
KO4 FSZ antennas. Good to see you, buddy. He has a question that we just covered, but I'll go back over it real fast for you. As far as logging multiple ops, say Liz and the fam call hunting, is there a way to type in and do the expansion, or is it just single entry again? Let me show you again. We just went over that. In my custom expansion file, which I'll show you how to set up here in just a minute, if I can remember how to get to it. The in Polo, you would do a ... or // and then whatever trigger that you called it. Mine is ERR for Liz and the family. So you do / ERR, then it asks you if you want to expand it out. You just hit enter and say yes. And if you want all 7 of them, you hit yes again, and all 7 of them are in the log, just like that. So fast expansion of common multi-hunters, common people who activate together for park to parks and things like that. Where that is set is in your settings. I got to find it here. Is it data?
It's the data, yes, call sign notes.
And then right here under custom, you're not going to have anything to start with, but you will add a new custom file and you'll give it a name and a location. And I'll leave it up there. If anybody wants to use mine, you're more than welcome to it. And
you're using right there some file you put on your own web server.
Yeah.
But Polo will let you use files shared from Google Drive, from Dropbox, from Google Docs. You can even start, the easiest thing to do is start a Google Docs file. And then there's a little share button that you can get a URL. And that's the URL you enter here. And Polo should recognize it and download. So you have one entry per line. The first word, the first part of the line is just the call sign you want to match. And then the rest of the line is is whatever you want to display on the logging field for Polo, and there you can like enter all your friends or all the club members, for example, so you can get an alert when they show up.
Yep. So
if
so here's my call sign file. So if you do //Dan, it'll ask to expand it out to those two call signs. If you do //VKX, it'll ask to expand it out those 4 call signs, et cetera, et cetera.
And you can also, if you can also put there something like KO4FSZ and say, he's the guy that sold me the antenna.
Yep.
So that whenever you work him, that text will show up in Polo to remind you to tell him something about the antenna. So
look what the last tab I had open was.
I'm sorry?
Look what the last tab I had open was. A chat with Kyle, Alpha 0 Zulu.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun? But yeah, if anybody wants to use my call sign expansion file, feel free. I won't change any of the triggers that are on there now, but I might add to it. You know, if I run into more people that commonly activate together and things like that. So feel free to use it if you want, or you can make your own. It's simple.
In fact, you know what? I'm gonna take over the screen sharing here for a second, because I want to do a quick demo that I'll record, that I'll split from the video now that we were talking about this. Let me see. I want to try. Let's see if we can make this happen, to show how to do Google Docs for this. So I'm going to share first my Google Docs tab. And I come here and I create a blank document. And I'm going to do here W1 WC Anna's husband. I create another line that has KO4FZ antennas. And I can put a little emoji character here as the first one. And then I'm going to do another one that says, like your example of having 1WC would be W1WC. And what's Anna's call sign? Do you remember it?
No, but I'm sure Whiskey 1 and Whiskey Charlie. Oh, Kilo Mike 4 Quebec November Alpha.
So this is a sample data file. I click on share, give it a name. The name, it doesn't really matter. Let's see. And anyone with the link. And I copy the link. I now go, let me switch screen sharing and get my sample phone here. I now go on Polo onto the data settings, call sign notes, add a new file, and I'm going to call it test notes. And I put that URL I got from the document.
Right.
Now, this is a live demo. Let's see if it works right away. Let's see, I have a new operation.
Oh, that new operation thing. We'll go back and touch on that in a minute. It's really good.
If I type W1 WC, Brian is listed already.
Antennas.
It shows the emoji and it shows antennas. And if I log him, it'll have the little emoji from that notes file. And if I type //1WC, it'll suggest to expand to the two things I had in my file. So that is how you use a notes file, including call sign expansion. And Dan, you will now be famous forever as I clip this and put it on YouTube as the way to explain how to use call sign notes and expansions.
There you go. But no, go back to the new activation. So start a new operation. This is really cool. All right, so the templates. I know he talked about this with Kyle a little bit, but I have used this. The template for POTA nearest is really, really cool because I just pull into a park if you have cell data.
Yeah.
And I hit that one thing and it sets my log up for the park that I'm in or the park that it thinks I'm closest to. If you have a bunch of parks and trails all intersecting, it might get a little bit confused at times, but it's not a problem around here. It's 100% spot on for single parks.
For example, I changed this operation to be the two of us. If I go create a new operation, it'll have that as the first template.
Yep, exactly.
All I need to do is tap here, and I have a multi-operator at the nearest park. And if you have multiple activities, it will pick them up and find the nearest reference for each one of those activities.
It's great for roves because sometimes, I mean, if you're going to go on a big rove, obviously you're going to plan it out. You're going to know what parks you're going to hit. But sometimes when I'm going from park to park to park, especially around North Florida, there's a lot of parks. And I'll drive by one and I'll just pull in there. And to be honest, I don't know the park number. So instead of researching the name and finding the park number, I just do, give me the nearest park and set me up an operation and boom, the name matches where I am and we're off to the races.
No, that's right. And even if you're doing a big rove, I would plan it in advance and I will figure out the parks and have the numbers in a list somewhere, but you don't need to create the logs in Polo beforehand.
Right.
You can just click on start the operation as soon as you stop at the park. And most of the time it'll be the right park. And if it's not, you can easily find it from, it should be one of the nearby parks. And if it's if it's a trail or one of those distant parks that the yellow dot is not nearby, you can enter it manually by name. You don't even need to remember the numbers. And so you can get going as soon as possible.
I'm sure most people here, excuse me, I'm sure most people here in the chat are familiar with POTA enough, but I'm going to go ahead and say this again. The yellow dot is just a reference, a general reference of where the park is. You don't have to activate on the yellow dot, on the POTA maps. As long as you're within the park boundaries, you and all your equipment, you're good to go. It's just a little reference mark to show you, that's where the park generally is.
In some states, the map coordinator had made sure that yellow dot is at a good place to activate. Not everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's a good place to start your research. It's a good suggestion, but it's definitely not the only place to activate. Yeah, that's right. Well, I don't think we need to stretch this any longer.
Good little session. We learned about expansion. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
I said we learned about expansion and call stacking. So yeah, we had a good little powwow.
Very much. It was great to see you demo the features that you fought so hard for me to write into Polo.
I whined. I said, I'm tired of typing this over and over again. Help me out, man.
Yeah, and like I said, it was great watching people use Polo.
Yeah, and then a week later, he said, I got you, man. No problem.
Yeah. It was great watching people use Polo there in ways. I mean, I don't work 6 people at the same time every single week so that I know them. Right. But as soon as I saw you guys doing it, I realized that this is very easy to add with what we have in the app already. So it was a quick feature, quick addition that was very meaningful. And I think that the call stacking came from watching you operate. And I realized as you were doing it, the idea of doing it through the // came to me that would be an easy thing to implement.
Yep.
and I remember I was at the airport on my way back from Orlando, sitting at the airport bar with the laptop writing this feature, and it was ready by the time I landed in New York. So yeah, that's all coming in the March release. That's out for testers right now, and will be in the general release in a week or so, I hope, unless we run into problems. And then we'll do another stream more officially demonstrating the new features. But you got a preview tonight, and I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you, Dan, for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. And as in any software programming venture, there's no such thing as problems. They're just undocumented features.
Exactly.
Yes.
Or challenges.
Or challenges.
And thank you all, you guys all in the chat for being here, for your questions, for annoying Dan and annoying me at times, but it's okay. That's how community works. And I hope to see you again, hopefully next week, if not soon thereafter. Have a good evening, everybody. Good morning to the ones in Australia if you're watching, and good afternoon to people in California, I guess, or Hawaii. But yeah, bye, everybody. Thank you.
See you guys.